Would help if I turn the mic on. Okay, fingers crossed. This should work. Ooh, let me adjust my levels a little bit. I don't see anything just yet, but looks like the event is streaming. Success! It worked. Excellent. Good morning, everybody. Day 3, third time's the charm. I am sorry that I kept you waiting the first 2 days, and I am very excited that I didn't have to today, and I figured out the problems. Partially the problems were that I'm bad at reading, and partially the problems were that I signed up to test some YouTube features before they get launched, and I found a bug. So, but today, no bugs, everything's good. I got my coffee and we're ready to go. So today we're going to be setting up the Kaggle API to run on 2 services. The first is Python Anywhere. So I have logged in, and you can see this is a brand new account. I haven't done anything in here yet. So this is what your dashboard will look like. And then the other is Google Cloud. And I'm actually going to first, I'm going to talk about why you would want to do this in the cloud at all, because there were some really good questions on the notebook, and I will go back and answer those on Kaggle, but I thought it would be good to address now as well. And then I'm going to walk through Google Cloud, and the reason that I am doing Google Cloud first is because the Google Cloud process is more like the process that you would use in your local environment, and the Python Anywhere process has some extra steps because they have a proxy set up. So I'm going to do Python Anywhere second because it's a little bit less general, so if you only watch half of it, it is more likely that the Google Cloud is going to be relevant to you. Yeah, and that's my plan for today. So really good questions on the notebook today. And again, like I said, I'm going to come back and answer these. So one question was from Sergey, and it said that notebooks are not run on GCP or Python Anywhere. They download and then are re-uploaded. That is correct. The code is actually, let me zoom in so you can see this a little bit easier. The code is being run on Kaggle. What you're doing is downloading a local copy and then pushing it. So you're not actually running any code on your cloud service. Your cloud service is connecting with Kaggle. Somebody also asked, why are we doing this? So the reason that we're doing this is that if you make a change to your dashboard that you're using, then when you download the new copy, are going to get all those changes. And then when you push it, your copy that you're automatically updating is always going to be the most recent one. So you can make changes on your Kaggle version of your notebook all you want, and then don't have to worry about making sure that you always have the most recent version in your thing. And the one we're doing today it's pretty fiddly to get set up, so I did it as a separate day, and then tomorrow when we schedule things, I think this will all make a lot more sense. Somebody else mentioned you can of course use your own PC to schedule. That is absolutely true. I would not recommend running important jobs as cron jobs. So cron, C-R-O-N, is the Linux scheduler. It's really useful if you just have small jobs that you need to run, say, every hour or every minute or every day or every week or whatever, on your local computer. It doesn't happen when your local computer is turned off. And at one point in the not too distant past, I had an important job that I needed to have run every day. And when I leave the office on Fridays, I turn off all my computers because I want to save electricity and I care about the environment. And because my computer was off, the job did not run over the weekend. And I knew that would happen. And if I'd thought about the job, I wouldn't have shut down my computer. But if it's on a cloud service, then you don't need to worry about making sure that your personal computer is set up. It's a little bit more abundant. It's a little bit more robust. Somebody asked about the link. You should have gotten the email, I am hoping. And I can also, if somebody wants to paste the link in the chat, I'll approve that and keeping an eye on it. So the process that we're going to be using today is we're going to be setting up the Kaggle API to run. So if you're not familiar with APIs, they are a way to use a programming language to interact with a service. We're going to be doing Kaggle today, but the general process would also apply to any other API that you had. So if you wanted to, use the Twitter API is one that I use a lot. The Google Speech API is one that I use a lot. And some people have very kindly pasted the link. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. Ed and Prashanth. If you wanted to run some sort of service, then you could do it. So the Kaggle API is what we're using today, but the sort of general process of setting up your credentials and running it on the cloud is going to be the same across products. So that's why I'm teaching this sort of more general skill, and we're just using Kaggle as an example. And I also want to shout out, if you haven't used Bash recently or a lot, Alexis Cook, who is a new member of the Kaggle family. We're really happy to welcome her. You may be familiar with her Udacity course on reinforcement learning. She's great. I'm really excited to have Alexis on board. Wrote this really fantastic little refresher on Unix commands and Bash that if you've got any questions, I recommend you check out. And she walks through all of the different commands. So I'm going to be moving a little bit fast today just because we have a lot to cover. But if you have any questions about any of the commands that I'm using, or, you learned about them in school and it's been a minute, then I'd really recommend checking out this notebook that she put together. So, services that we're going to be using today. I am just going to be talking about 2 services. Obviously, there's a lot more. So I'm talking about, for sort of the big players, the Google Cloud Platform. There's also Amazon Web Services, AWS. There's also Azure, which is the Microsoft offering. I think Oracle has something. I know IBM has something that I haven't used. So if you're looking for big options, there's a lot of those. And then sort of smaller options like Python Anywhere, there's, a vast array of startups doing various different things, offering cloud services. And I picked these 2 because I have friends who work on GCP, so I can ask them questions when I got stuck. And of course, just full disclosure, Kaggle is owned by Google. So I had access to a lot of people to help me out with this. You don't have to use GCP, it's just what I'm using. And then Python Anywhere is a little bit lighter of a service, so it's not designed to sort of do anything. It's designed for web apps and websites to run those specifically. And the reason that I have 2 options here, A, it's good to have options, and B, you won't need it today, but tomorrow when we set up the scheduling function of our notebooks, we are going to need to enable billing, which means you do need a credit card. And I don't think you should be charged if you are following my instructions, because we're going to have a level of usage that will be under the free tier. But I know not everybody has a credit card, and that's going to be a problem for some people, and I completely understand that. And if that is you, then I would recommend using Python Anywhere instead, because they don't require a credit card to schedule notebooks. And like I said, I'll be working through both. And actually, there was some downtime earlier this morning, which hopefully nobody had any problems with, but they are, as you can see, back online. So you can sort of ignore this note now. All right, let's get started. So I have really very what am I looking for? I have very complete instructions here. The big thing to notice is that mostly you can copy and paste the commands. Some of them have like your GCP username here or your Kaggle username here, and that you're going to need to replace with your actual GCP or Kaggle username. You can't, like this is, unless your Kaggle username is bracket your space Kaggle space username space here bracket all in all caps, which I don't think is a valid Kaggle username. If you just copy and paste this bit of code, it's not going to work. And I don't know, for some of you who may have more experience, you might be like, oh, this is in so much detail. But this, getting the API set up has historically been something that people have had a lot of trouble with. So I want to make sure that nobody gets left behind and confused. All right. Oh, and if you have any other questions about the API, or if you want to look at the code, it's completely open source. It is on GitHub. It's just Kaggle API. And we've got complete documentation. All the documentation is also available through the API using the help tag, which is -h. And of course, you can look at the code for the API if you're interested. It is written in Python. WL says, will we be able to go over these videos in the coming weeks and use the credit card then, or do we have to set it up tomorrow? No, this should apply in the future as well. Yeah, so in order to do the scheduling stuff tomorrow, you have to have the API set up. You can get the API set up tomorrow if you want. Yeah, and I don't think things should change that much. Obviously, cloud services update and change. The thing that is most likely to change that I think probably won't is Cloud Scheduler, which is relatively new as a service. Like, I think it's only been out of beta a couple weeks, but because it's out of beta now, I think it should be fairly stable. Yeah, that was my whole spiel. All right. A little bit of coffee. Regardless of which cloud service you're picking, you are going to need to download your credentials. So if you haven't done this before, you go to your account. So over here under my account, this will be your profile picture, obviously. Maybe that's not obvious. That will be your profile picture. And on your account page, if you scroll down, you will see this section that says API. And you want to create a new API token if you don't have one already. If you already have one, you should use the one that you have currently. So when you create a token, you'll see that you download a JSON file. And the JSON file will have your username and also your API key. You want to keep that secret because anyone who has access to your key can run things through your Kaggle account. Guy said, I assume those of us working in R can't use non-credit card Python Anywhere. You can. So it's called Python Anywhere, but all the coding that we're going to be doing today is actually in Bash rather than Python. Tomorrow we'll have a little bit more Python, but you can copy and paste and then change the specific commands that I tell you to change. I'm going to try and make this very frictionless because when I got this set up for the first time, I was very confused and spent a lot of time struggling with it. So hopefully it will be fairly user-friendly. But yes, you are able to do this for Python or for R. Because you're not actually running the notebook on Python Anywhere, you're running it on the Kaggle servers, and of course we support R. A little bit more coffee. Okay. So I've created a new token, it is downloaded, and now I'm ready to start with GCP, and then we're gonna go back and do pretty much the same thing we're doing here on Python Anywhere. So I am logged into my Google account. I've just gone to cloud.google.com. This is also linked in the notebook, and I'm going to go to my console, which will take a second to load. Somebody said, Ben, if I already have GCS, Google Cloud Speech token, can I reuse it for this, or do I need a new API token? So the API token is for your Kaggle account. So yes, you are going to need a new Kaggle API token for setting this up. But if you have Cloud Speech set up, then you don't need to set up billing. Good question by Ben. You see here that I already have a project set up. You do not need a project set up at this point. All you need to do is, and you won't see a project here if this is your first time logging in, go to the top bar, and let me actually zoom in a little bit so it's a little bit easier to see, and click on this Activate Cloud Shell. This is the only service that we're going to be using today. And this starts a little virtual machine, which is also what Python Anywhere is going to do. And this is a shell just like you would have in a Unix environment or Windows shell. I think it's just called Windows shell. Anyway, it's a shell. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to install the Kaggle API. So that is the code here that is in this GitHub repo, and this is going to allow you to interact with Kaggle programmatically. And to do this, we do pip install Kaggle, and you do not need the user tag to get it to work on GCP. So I'm going to do pip install Kaggle, and I'm actually, because I want to do this at root, I'm going to do sudo pip install Kaggle. So something to note, things that you install in your home directory are going to persist, but the virtual machine itself will not persist across tokens. I think it's like 20 hours or something. It's going to be, what's the word I'm looking for? It's going to be shut down. So things that you just store on the virtual machine are not necessarily going to be stored. So something to note. So now that I've installed Kaggle PowerShell, Zach said. Thank you. Yes, PowerShell. Oh, I should have finished my coffee before I started streaming, maybe. So now, if I try to run the command Kaggle, I will get an error, even though it is installed, because I don't have my credentials uploaded. So what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to upload the key that I downloaded earlier from the Kaggle site. So that's down here in the corner, you can see. And I do this by clicking on the 3 buttons over here and then clicking on Upload File. And you can't see it, but I've got a new window here where I'm just clicking into my downloads folder, and I am uploading the Kaggle JSON. And oh, you actually can't see that. It's in a separate window. So over here in the corner where you can't see it, there's a little window that says transfer 1 of 1 complete, Kaggle.json finished. And then at the bottom of that window, it says file upload destination /home/Rachael_Tatman, which is, as you can see, my username. So I'm going to close that because you guys can't see it anywhere. My current location is /home. So if I list the files, you can see that I have some things that I did yesterday. Ignore those. You can see that I have the Kaggle.json file. Darren says we can the transfer window. I'm going to assume you mean you can't see the transfer window. You do see it. Okay. That's weird. It's not showing up in my preview, but I'm glad you can see it. So we have this Kaggle.json file with our credentials that we've uploaded, but it is in the wrong place. So it says that it should be in this directory. It should be located in /home/Rachael_Tatman. That's my GCP username, and then the .kaggle directory. So I am going to move it to that location by using by using move. So I'm going to move the file kaggle.json, and I'm going to move it to the location /home. And I'm just going to specify the whole path. So this will work wherever you are in your directory, as long as you are in the it will work as long as you're in the directory where you currently have uploaded the JSON file. There we go. Whew, words are hard. .kaggle, and then kaggle.json. Cool. So then, because I've moved it, if I list again, you will see that it no longer shows up in my list of things that I have in my current directory. And now if I run the command kaggle-h, I can see the help. So whatever command you're doing, if you add -h after it, you will see the documentation for that. So here you can see that you have a number of commands, competitions. You can make competition submissions from the API, or you can download competition datasets. You can download download or upload data sets, kernels, download or upload kernels, and then configures various configuration settings. And you also see that you have a warning here. So remember I said you need to keep your API key secret because anyone can use that to access your Kaggle account. In order to protect it from other users on the system, I'm going to run this command so that it can't be accessed by anyone else who has access to the same project. So if you're working on a team and you're using your personal Kaggle account for whatever reason, this would be a way for you to protect your credentials. And now if I do Kaggle-H, you can see I don't get that warning anymore. Okay, so we have it all set up. Fantastic. We have access to our Kaggle account. We can download things, we can upload things, we can enter competitions. Do note that for competitions, you need to accept the rules for a specific competition on the Kaggle site before you try to download the data set or enter the competition. So if you get an error that says you need to accept the rules, you do need to do that visually through our web front end. All right, so let us download and then upload a kernel. So there isn't a command to run a kernel in the API. So if we look at the kernels, if we look at the documentation, you can see our list of available commands. Ooh, go away. Our list of available commands are list, so we can see available kernels. And this is a good way to search kernels as well. Initialize new metadata for a kernel. So when you push a kernel, if you don't have a metadata file associated with it, we don't know like what to call the notebook. We don't know what language it's in. This is things you need to specify. When you are pulling from an existing kernel, you can also get the metadata, so then you don't have to modify anything by hand. Pushing code that you have locally to a kernel, and this will either create a new kernel or a new version of an existing kernel if it's your kernel. Pull downloads a local copy, and then output gives you the output files from a kernel run. So if you're, say you're training a model and you've saved your model output as, you've saved the model itself and you want to take that and deploy it somewhere else, you can do that using output from the specific kernel you use to train your model. And then status lets you know how long it's taken. Excuse me. Status lets you know how your kernel is going. But there's no command just to run kernels. And that is a decision that the engineering team made for various reasons. They did think about it. All right, so that's just sort of a quick tour of the kernels thing, and let's actually pull a kernel to work with. Thank you, everyone saying bless you. There's a little bit of a delay because of the streaming, but thank you. So I am going to quickly look up the commands for listing because I always forget. I want to get a list of my kernels that I have run. And actually, it's in the notebook. Let's see. Where's the notebook? Oh, that's right. I went to my user user page. Scroll down. Here we go. It's list -- user, your Kaggle username, -- by, and then date run, snake case. Right? Yeah, snake case is the one that starts with the, oh my gosh. Why can't I copy and paste good? And we were in, there we go. So this will obviously not work because my Kaggle username is not your Kaggle username here. Right now I'm interested, actually let's get them from my other account. So I'm gonna get them from our Tavin. So that's my admin account. Oh, thank you, and Kyle has very kindly pasted the list. And I've made, oh, right, sorry. It should be Kaggle kernels. Is that how you spell kernels? I don't think it is. let me start typing and then use Kaggle complete like a, nope. I typed completed to the wrong thing. There we go. So here are some of the kernels that I have run using that account, and you can see that some of them are shared with Rebecca Turner, and these are kernels that I've been added as a collaborator with, or based on my two accounts. And here is the dashboard that I used as an example in the email, so I'll use that. And you can see that it was last run yesterday at, what is that, 6:16? So I'm just going to copy and paste this. So that's the information that we need to pull that. So Kaggle kernels pull, and then I've also forgotten the command, so I'm going to look at help again. And I also can't spell kernels. K-E-R-N-L-E-S. There we go. Okay, so it actually doesn't need a flag. It's just the URL, and I am going to ask for the metadata as well. Swaraj says the number of people live on day one has drastically decreased from the third one. Yeah, people get busy. And people do also watch offline. Swaraj says GCP is good, but very expensive once you have to pay for it. Microsoft Azure is better. Like I said, hopefully nobody will have to pay for this with what we're doing today. And excellent. So we pulled this kernel, and we also got the metadata. If you don't pull the metadata, you're going to have to create that by hand. And so if I list current kernels, list things in my current environment, you can see that I have an IPython notebook, World Bank EDA for dashboard-python. Interesting. Interesting. That is not the kernel I pulled, I don't think, unless... I'm going to try removing some of these files and see what it does now. Source code downloaded to home, Rachael Hatman. Okay, interesting. So it might have been because there was a kernel-metadata file in the current directory that it didn't download it. It is also possible that these are actually the same kernel because I don't remember what I downloaded yesterday. Yeah, other things, blah, blah, blah. We could use AWS as well as GCP, right? Yep, of course, I'm just not walking through it. Do the comments record with the video for later use? They should. They did on day one, and I didn't see them for a while after the video was uploaded for day 2, and I'm not entirely sure why that is. Shrug. Maybe it's just that they were taking some time to process. And Darren says, I got a 404 in my kernel that was listed. Interesting. I don't know what that is causing. So there was a bug yesterday where if you weren't logged in, you'd see a 404 for kernels that got busted really pretty quick, which is nice. The engineering team got on that. But I don't know what that specific thing might be. I triple checked all the links, you guys. I spent so much time checking links yesterday. Yep. Sorry, if I had sent a dead link in the third day in a row, I would have had to have, I don't know, moved to Peru and farm potatoes. Something. Darren said, another one from earlier in the years worked okay for me, so I'll work with that one. Okay, yeah, find a dashboard that you like and use that, or use one that you have made. Okay, so now we have the IPython notebook from our kernel that we've downloaded. If this is a script kernel, it's obviously not going to be a IPython notebook. And we also have the metadata. So we should now be able to kernels. There we go. We should be able to push just as is because we are in the correct directory, except that we get a kernel push error, kernel not found. Vibomb says, are you planning to teach some advanced ML stuff in our probably Kaggle competition? Maybe? Yeah, we'll see. I don't have concrete plans for what we're going to be doing next year yet. We're still fleshing that out, so. Sabu says, Kaggle.json need to be created every time we connect to GCP? No, because it's in your home directory. It should be persistent across sessions. That's a good question. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Let's check out the help. Folder for upload containing the data files and a special kernel-metadata JSON file, which we have, defaults to the current working directory, which it is. I wonder if the problem is because I changed the title of this kernel at some point. This might be a bug. Jerry said, hello, I had version issues when committing the kernel. Interesting. The version of the kernel or the version of the API? Because if you downloaded the API a while ago, there have been some updates relatively recently, so you might need to pip upgrade or pip update. Okay, so let's try a different kernel and see if that works. And let's also remove the kernel metadata. And let's actually download one of my kernels from my account. I think the problem might be that it's in the metadata. And I haven't forked it. So it's not a version that I forked with the account that my credentials are for currently. So the problem might be that the metadata is trying to update a kernel that I don't have permission to update. So if I corrected the metadata, that should fix it. But I'm just going to download a different kernel instead. So I had somewhere in my history. So I'm using the up arrow to go through my history here so I don't have to retype things because I'm lazy. And I'm going to get things for my current account, Becca Turner. All right, so let's use this World Bank EDA for dashboard Python instead of the other one. WL says, this is Bash you're using. Yes. And Devog says, I tried a forked notebook and it doesn't work. Create a new one that you own. So yeah, I think there might be some problems with, I think you might need to update the metadata if you're working from a forked notebook. And Tusif says, is it mandatory to remove the metadata? No, but you want to make sure that you're uploading the notebook that's associated with the metadata for the kernel that you actually want to update. If you don't have the metadata for the kernel that you actually want to update and you upload another notebook, it will create a new version of that notebook using the notebook that you just updated. So basically, if I had a kernel, it has notebook A in it, then I download notebook B, but I'm using the metadata file for notebook A. When I upload it, I'm going to upload notebook B to kernel A, and when that's run, I'm going to get some weird errors because it's a different notebook, if that makes sense. I was doing a lot of hand gestures, and I wish I had a whiteboard. That would be really nice, but I don't know how you can do a whiteboard on YouTube. Okay, so we were going to Kaggle kernels, Kaggle, K-E-R-N-E-L-S, Kaggle kernels, pull, the file that we want is, I think I just copied it, yep, and we also want the metadata. All right, and now if we do Kaggle kernels push, if we do Kaggle kernels push and also we spell kernels correctly, K-E-R, there's the extra E. There we go. Then it will upload. It's Me says, how much data can we upload on Kaggle? I believe I don't think you have a limit for public data sets. I believe it is 30, actually it's going to be here in this, here we go. It is 20 gigabytes for private data sets. So if you're uploading data privately, you can only have 20 gigabytes, but in addition to those 20 gigabytes, you can have as much as you want that's available publicly. Yeah, and that might update, so check in your what is it? Check in your account profile. Yeah, okay, so whoop, 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 whoop. Here I was, and I should be able to go to this URL, which is the URL for my dashboard that I'm using, and it's thinking. And it should say that it was just run. So if I look on versions, you can see that it was last run a minute ago. The run before that was a day ago. And if I look at the notebook, I think yesterday there were 1,159 calls currently open. And I don't know if you can tell if you remember what it looked like yesterday, but because the data set has been updated, so has our visualizations because we reran them. And the version I sent you guys is a lot prettier because I edited the code a little bit. But yeah, so we've run it by pulling it locally and then pushing it. And that has caused the figures to update because they were reran on the new data. And if I look at my old version that we had previously, it's going to take a second. You can see, sorry, it was 1,156. You can see that this was the data as it was yesterday. So it's slightly different. So I think like Pakistan or maybe Afghanistan had slightly more calls today than it did yesterday. So it's been updated. And right now we're doing this by hand, but tomorrow we're going to figure out how to set this up so that it automatically runs once a day. And we're going to be using, for the GCP version, we're going to be using the, what am I calling it? We're going to be using Cloud Functions to do that. So this basic process is also how you would set it up on your local machine as well. The Python Anywhere process is similar, but a little bit different. So let's do the same thing that we did here, but for Python Anywhere. So first I need to start a new console, and I'm doing that using Bash, because that's the language we're going to use to run. Can I get bigger? Oh, that's nice. That's nice and big. And I can actually give this a name. So I'm going to call this console something informative, like oh my gosh, I can't think of a good name. Dashboarding. Question. I got a 401 authorization error on trying to list kernels, even though I'm including user ID command. 401 authorization error on trying to list kernels. Interesting. So that was a question from Phyllis. Pixie Play says, can we run a kernel and send its output to email? You can, but it's going to be a little bit more involved, and you're going to need to use different services. So here we go. So GCP, sorry, in the Kaggle API, one of the options with kernels is to access the output file. It's in here somewhere. Where's kernels? Competitions. Data sets. Scroll. One of the options is to download, here we go, the output data. So what you could do is you could set up a process that runs the kernel to update it, then have another call to download the output, and then through whatever service you're using, because you're going to have that file in your service, set up a function there to email it to yourself. So in GCP, you could use Cloud Functions. I don't know if you can send emails on Python Anywhere, but it might be something you can set up. Phyllis, I would leave a comment on the notebook, and I can help you out. And I would also check the issues on the GitHub. Rebecca's pretty responsive, and see if anyone else has had a 401 error. No, looks like not. Yeah, so leave a comment on the notebook and I can spend some more time looking into that for you. Okay. Edward said, can the instruction videos be downloaded? I think if you have YouTube Premium, I think you can download videos? ? Abhishek says, I guess the struggle with naming is everyone's problem. Yeah, names are hard. And Sabu says, this is some sort of Kaggle as the front end and GCP is the back. Actually sort of the other way around. So you're using GCP to interact with Kaggle, but all the computations are actually being run on Kaggle. And again, you can use a different cloud service. So we're going to see how to do it on Python Anywhere. So just like pip install, so just like on GCP, we need to install the Kaggle. And here I'm going to actually use the user tag as well, because when I did it without the user tag, it didn't work. Ben says, I have YouTube Red and cannot download videos. It might be called something like Watch Offline. And also, there may be services for downloading YouTube videos that are run by third parties that I'm not familiar with. I will say that I don't have a problem with you guys downloading videos. I don't know how you would do that. And obviously follow the law. Okay, so we have downloaded it. So now the thing that we need to do is we need to upload our credentials. And to do this, I'm actually going to start a new tab. And I believe it is files/user. Yes, leave the site. I think it's files. The link is, there we go, files home, and then your username. There we go. So the link that will be correct for you will be, what's the word I'm looking for? In the notebook. Rich says controlled by channel owner. Yeah, I can see if there's a switch I can flip somewhere in the depths of the dashboard to let you guys download videos. I'll look into that. Actually, let me make a note. Download videos, ? YouTube. Okay, so here I'm going to upload a file, and I'm actually going to upload a fake file. So I'm uploading a file that has kaggle.json, but it's not my actual credentials. And the reason is that we actually need to edit this file. And I don't want to show you real credentials live because that would be a security vulnerability. And remember, credentials are secrets. Sujay says, hi Rachel, I want to know how the data gets modified when updated. Does it require any code modification for the same? Sujay, you have figured out what we're going to be doing on Friday. So the data sets that I recommended you build dashboards on are maintained by Kaggle, and we update those ourselves. And then the code, if the format of the data set is the same, should run the same. But this is a good place for testing and validation, which is what we're going to talk about on Friday. Excellent question. WL says, this may have been covered, but is this doable using the R universe as well? Great question. I think I did mention it a little bit earlier. We're going to be using only Bash today. So even though it says Python Anywhere, this will work for notebooks, R notebooks as well. And Danielle has some more information about downloading videos, so thank you. Okay, so I have uploaded these, my credentials, quote unquote, and I can actually show you. So if I list here, you can see that the current files that I have in my working directory are readme.txt and my credentials, in quotes. And if I print out my credentials, you can see that my key here is really long list of letters and numbers, which is not actually my key. And it looks like I actually have 1744 at the end of it. That shouldn't be there. I mean, it's not going to work anyway because this isn't a real key. But what I'm going to actually want to do is, because Python Anywhere uses a proxy, I'm going to need to edit this file to include the proxy information. And to do that, I'm going to use nano, which is... Oh, I see. There's no new line at the end of this file, so this is the next line of the bash command. That's not actually in the file. I'm going to use nano to edit kaggle.json. So this is the information that is in, this is a word editor, and this is what's currently in my key, and this will be obviously, if you have just downloaded your key, the actual information that you actually need. And then just let me know about that. Thank you. Matamala says, are you actually modifying the data or merging the new data? So for the data sets that we update, they're provided by municipalities and various NGOs, and it will depend on the data set. Usually it is that they are adding more data to the data set rather than changing the data. But what we are doing here, we're only interacting with kernels. We are in no way modifying data sets. The data sets are being modified independently. And because of those modifications, when we rerun the kernel, the code that depends on that data is having a different output, if that makes sense. Hopefully that's clear. This is another place where I'd like a whiteboard so I can do a little dependency chart. So the information that we need to add at the end is, here we go. It's in this file and it is down here in the Python Anywhere. And we need to add the proxy, which is proxy http://proxy.server:3128. So let's add that. Oop. And then to save the file, we need to actually write it out. So I'm going to hit Control-O, and it's already got a name, and I want to keep that name. So, boop. Going to do that, and then I'm going to do Control-X to exit. And then if I cat kaggle.json again, you can see that I've added this proxy information to the end of it. Sabu says, you pull a kernel and push it, the dashboard takes the data, updates and refreshes the dashboard. If this is right, we can mimic the same setup for business. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so now, just like we did on GCP, if we run Kaggle, the command Kaggle, we should get, so I'm trying to get help. We should get an error because we don't have an actual key. And what I'm going to do in another window right now is edit my actual key and then upload that so that it works right and doesn't not work, which would be good, huh? So I can show you an example of something working good and not something not working. So save that. I'm going to go back here and I'm going to upload a new file, and this file is going to be one that will actually work and not one that won't work. Doop, doop, doop. And now I'm not going to cat it anymore because I don't want you guys to see my credentials, which are secrets. All right, so now I want to move this file. So again, I'm going to do move. I'm going to move the file kaggle.json, and I'm going to move it to /home/rtatman/.kaggle/kaggle.json. And then if I run Kaggle, it should work. But you will see that I get my little warning again. So I am going to run this to, again, protect my private key. And it would be great if I could actually copy and paste good. There we go. So when you're seeing the little key thing, gosh darn it, whenever you select text and then release the mouse, it's automatically copied both in Python Anywhere and also in GCP. Question, Ben, if you had revealed your key, could you change it later? Kind of like changing your password if someone else has happened to see it? That is a fantastic question. Thank you, Ben. I can. So you'll see here I have this expire API token. This will make any API token that I've currently created no longer work. After I do this, in order to get things working again, I need to create a new API token and re-upload it. Yeah, so this is how you would, if somebody had gotten a hold of your token, this is how you would make sure that they didn't get access to your account anymore. Really good question. Thank you. I should have mentioned that. But once you expire it, you can't unexpire it. So that's a security measure. So you do need to create a new one and then go through the process again. Yeah. All right. So now we should be able to do the same thing we did on GCP. Let's Kaggle kernels list. I think it's user not like that. Turner, and then there was something about sorting. Oh, I forget what it is. I'm just gonna use the help again. I know, I'm always just constantly pulling up the help because I can never remember bash commands because they are extremely hard to remember. All right, yeah, it was -- user Rebecca Turner, which is my nom de Kaggle. And then the sort by is -- sort by, and it is date run is what I'm interested in. There we go. And then the one that I wanted to run was this Rebecca Turner World Bank EDA dashboard for Python. And you could see if I zoomed out, and actually this table looked good to the eyes, that it was last run at this time, which is like 5 minutes ago, because I just ran it using my using GCP. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to do Kaggle pull. There's the notebook, and I do want the metadata. Oh, right. It's Kaggle kernels pull. I don't know why I keep forgetting to say Kernels. There we go. And then if I list, you can see that I now have Kaggle metadata and the IPython notebook. And then I can, to update it, just push, and it worked. And so we can check the data set again. So if we refresh this, we can see that this is the version that we ran from GCP that was updated 2 minutes ago. And this one, version 5, we ran a few seconds ago. And that's the one that we just did with Python Anywhere. So that's how both Python Anywhere and GCP work. And again, the main reason that you want to do something like this on the cloud is so that you don't have a single point of failure that is your specific computer, and your whole stack is on your computer. There's an XKCD about that where someone's like, I'm running everything on my computer, and the rest of the team is like, oh, yikes. And also, if you're collaborating with people, then if you're on the cloud and you're using the same cloud services, it's fairly easy for you guys to work together and use version control or whatever it is that you're doing. Babak says, I got this warning, Latin 1 codec can't encode character in position 1116, ordinal not in range. That is a character encoding issue, and I have written, actually, a really exhaustive notebook about that. That should be able to help you out. Character encoding. So I think this one's Python, but I think I also have a R1 as well. So it is checking character encoding. Nope, this isn't the one. It was one of the 5-day data cleaning challenges, but this shows how to check encodings, and you can see that the encoding that we have guessed here is there are some problems because we've got some Unifode errors. And Ben says, that's a right quote because your character is not a character. Sorry, I'm trying to remember what characters are called. Apostrophes are not quotes. Anyway, you don't have the character that you meant to have. Yeah. Oh, I do want to share that. So on Python Anywhere, I can now go back to my what do you want to call it? My homepage, and you can see that this is the console I was using. So one difference between Python Anywhere and GCP, in GCP you have one console session across GCP, and things that you add in your home are going to be persistent, and that you got the one console. In Python Anywhere, you can have, I think, up to 5 different consoles at the free tier, and each console is operating independently, so that's something to watch out for. All right, so that is pretty much all that I had for the notebook today, and hopefully no one will have any particularly nasty bugs. Yeah, feel free to leave a comment on the notebook if you're having problems or if you run into any trouble. You can also try opening an issue on the Kaggle API. Like I said, Rebecca is usually pretty responsive, although I think she's having some computer troubles today, so she might be a little bit less responsive, but I'll also try to keep an eye on it. Yeah, and tomorrow we are going to talk about scheduling. So how to put together something that can run. On Python Anywhere, we're going to do some bash scripting. So we're going to do even more bash. Again, we're not actually going to write any Python for Python Anywhere. For GCP, we're going to be using Cloud Functions. For that, we are going to be using some Python. Cloud Functions are, you write a function and then you run it on the cloud. And we will be using Python for that. But again, I'm going to have some code that like, you can just copy and paste, and I will say what to change and what to change it to. And then on Friday, we're going to talk about testing and validation, and that should be good. And we'll answer, I don't see the question right now. We'll answer the question we had earlier about what do we do if the data changes in a new and unexpected way. Yeah, thanks for joining me. I'm going to wrap it up here because I've got plenty to do today. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Same time, same place. Oh, WL says, notebooks seem good for presenting results online. Are they also good for inputting data, say for a single observation, to some R-produced ML algorithm? If you're doing that sort of thing, I would probably recommend a script rather than a notebook. Notebooks are good for things that you want to show to humans. If it is not, you're not writing code for the primary purpose of showing it to other people, then a script tends to have, like, there's less overhead. It's a little bit lighter. There are fewer dependencies to manage. So I would recommend scripts there. And also scripts you can run as a batch rather than having to run each cell individually. So that's my 2 cents. Yeah, and I will talk to you guys all tomorrow, and hopefully we'll have another stream without problems getting it set up. I think I've got it figured out now. I think I got my system all set up. All right. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye.